Howdy! My name is Kbex and welcome to my new writing channel. I'm going to explore with you guys all the great things that I've been learning on this writing journey. All the way from my short story writing to having a go at writing my first ever novel, which if you're somebody who's tried that, you will understand how frustrating and exciting it is at the same time. So without any further delay, let's get into the top 5 things that surprised me when writing my very first novel. Number 1. Your first draft will be... I've heard people call the first draft draft 0, and I think this is a perfect name for it, because to expect that very first draft when you're just sort of letting the words come to you, whether you're a plotter or a pantser, doesn't really matter. If you're expecting the end result to be perfection, then you're going to be very disappointed. Editing is really what it's all about. Are you able at the end of it to take a step back and look at the bigger picture? Developmentally speaking, first of all, are you able to have a look at the beginning, middle and end, and does it all make sense? Does each chapter have its own beginning, middle and end? And then, of course, once you've done all that, having a look at the lines, line editing, individual sections. Does the sort of the voice work for each character? Is that the right choice of words for that particular moment or scene? So the editing's where I think most of the magic comes out. Number 2, the fact that the characters really do have a life of their own. You could be someone like me who is a plotter. I spend a lot of time using the Save the Cat plan to begin with, and then tweaking and editing as I go along. But I spend a lot of time deciding where my story is going to go and at what point things are going to change, and planning exactly what my characters are like and what are their motivations. But regardless of all that, your character can still turn round in the middle of a scene and decide, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this instead. And that can be really surprising for somebody who's planned it out so well. Number 3. Each story type has its own word count. So whether you're going for a novella or a full novel, there is going to be a difference in word count there. But even if you're going for a full novel, not all novels are the same word count, and that even goes for the chapters, the word count in the chapters. My very first novel is a YA urban fantasy, which you're looking around about somewhere between 80,000 words to something like about 115,000 words, I think, max, because of its YA. So younger audiences tend to sort of end up at the maximum around the 80,000 mark, but also fantasies can have quite a high word count. I think there's some of the highest amount of words you get in individual novels, even, and then urban fantasy is a little bit lower than high fantasy. So you really do have to have a look around and see what is common for your story in the market. And when I first wrote mine, I kept to the rough word count of the overall story. But then when I had my first beta readers have a look at the first few chapters, their comments were about how long those chapters were. I think the first few edits, the chapters were around about 6, 7 or even 8,000 words long, which is just not common for the type of story I was writing. And I had to spend a chunk of time much later down the line pretty much cropping each of my chapters in half. So if you're somebody who is at the stage where you are just hammering out your chapters, you don't have to do it now, but be aware at the end, go back and just check how many words has each chapter got, because you might have to do a little bit of work tweaking it to fit the sort of expectation in the industry. Number 4, don't edit as you go. One of the biggest mistakes I made in the first sort of 10 to 20,000 words was constantly going back, rereading what I'd written and trying to edit it all the way down to line editing and trying to make it perfect. And it just meant that I was never progressing. And it was around the 20,000 word mark. I'd already had, for some reason, I'd already chosen to get a beta reader and got a bit of feedback, and it was really demotivating. And I remember seeing online somewhere, someone had said, do not read what you have written. Let the words come to you, type them up, press save, and the next time maybe give it a quick sort of scan through so you know whereabouts in the scene you're at, that sort of thing. But do not go back and do any editing, because it is only going to slow you down and kind of lose momentum and pace for the story. And once I had done that, it was such a much smoother process. I think I smashed out the last, sort of 60,000 words with not that much hesitation, because I trusted the plan I put in place and I trusted this piece of advice. And I think at the end of the day, it definitely made my writing better, because you then can just finish that draft, put a pin in it, leave it a little while, and then when you come back to it and read it as one cohesive piece, then you can start to make sense of where the big major changes need to be. Number 5. It can be so easy to get distracted from your novel with other projects. The minute a new novel idea pops in your head, you want to go and immediately scribble it down and start working on it. Or you might have short stories that you have been planning for ages, or a competition might pop up. And some of those things you do want to keep doing, because I think it's great for your brain to be able to dip into something else for a bit, particularly if you're stuck. But don't let it dominate your time. If you've planned to write this novel, then go ahead and give yourself time to do that. And it will require a bit of, scheduling perhaps on your part. You might have to try and figure out when is best for you to write. So what time of day, what time of week, and try and fit it around your schedule. And no one else's schedule or advice is going to work for you, particularly if you're somebody who's got a full-time or a part-time day job. You're going to have to try and just figure out what works for you, and it's not one size fits all, unfortunately. But when you do find that sweet spot of the sort of time of day, and even the location of writing can make a massive difference to your performance in your writing. Once you've figured all that out, then I think you're on to a winner. And that's it. That's my top 5 surprising things that I discovered when writing my first novel. I hope to release one of these at least once a month. Obviously, my writing kind of comes first, and I've got a day job as well. But hopefully, once a month is the aim. And if you'd like to hear more content like this, then please go ahead and like and subscribe.